The girl who walked out of the blizzard carried no ID, no phone, no survival gear, just a calm that could freeze blood. When she asked for a rifle at the most classified military installation in North America, the guards laughed. When she drew back her sleeve and showed them the mark no one had seen in 15 years, the laughter stopped. That symbol meant she was either the most valuable intelligence asset in a generation or a weapon sent to destroy them all. And in exactly 17 minutes, the storm would bring both answers crashing through their gates. If you want to see how far a ghost can reach when the past refuses to stay buried, stay with me until the final shot. Drop a like, leave a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels across the map. And let's find out together what happens when a Black Ops program thought dead decides it's time to come home. The storm hit northern Idaho like a fist through glass. It came down from the Canadian Rockies with the kind of cold that didn't just freeze, it erased. Visibility dropped to 15 feet. Wind speeds spiked past 40 knots. The temperature plunged to 8 below zero, and that was before the wind chill factor turned the air into something closer to a blade than weather. Highway 95 disappeared under 2 feet of powder. Cell towers went dark. Emergency services pulled back to shelter and waited for nature to finish what it started. And somewhere in the middle of that whiteout hell, a girl walked alone. She didn't stumble. She didn't huddle against the wind or shield her face from the ice cutting sideways through the air. She just moved, steady, deliberate, mechanical, like she'd been programmed to keep going no matter what the world threw at her. Her name was Lena Voss, though the men who trained her had called her other things. Subject 12. Asset Indigo 7. The replacement. She was 18 years old, 5'7", maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. She wore a faded green military surplus jacket with a broken zipper, black cargo pants torn at one knee, and boots held together with duct tape and spite. No gloves, no scarf, no hat. She should have been dead in 20 minutes. But Lena Voss had learned a long time ago that should was a word other people used. The Black Site installation designated Outpost Cipher 9 sat 12 miles northeast of Bonner's Ferry, buried in a forest so thick even satellite imaging had trouble picking it out. It wasn't on any map. It didn't have a mailing address. Officially, it didn't exist. The Department of Defense had built it in 2003 as a forward intelligence node, then quietly expanded it into something darker. A storage facility for operational data too sensitive to digitize, too dangerous to destroy, and too valuable to leave in Washington, where congressional oversight committees might start asking the wrong questions. There were 37 personnel on site. 12 were standard military security. 15 were intelligence analysts. 6 were communications specialists. 4 were command staff. The perimeter was monitored by motion sensors, thermal cameras, ground pressure plates, and enough razor wire to stop a small army. At 21:47 hours on a Saturday night in late February, 2 guards stood watch at the main gate, arguing about basketball and trying not to think about how cold their feet were getting. Corporal Danny Reeves stamped his boots against the frozen ground and blew into his gloved hands. "I'm telling you, man, they're not making it past the second round." Private First Class Marcus Liu shook his head, grinning. "You said that last year, and the year before. At some point, you gotta accept you don't know what you're talking about. Stats don't lie. Stats said the Cubs would never win a World Series. That's baseball. Different sport, different..." Reeves stopped mid-sentence. Leo noticed the shift immediately. "What?" Reeves was staring past the gate into the swirling void of snow and darkness beyond the floodlights. His hand had drifted toward his sidearm without him realizing it. "Danny?" "Something's out there." Lou followed his gaze. There was nothing but white chaos, and the distant silhouettes of trees bending under the wind. "Yeah, it's called a blizzard." "No, I saw..." And then she stepped into the light. One moment there was nothing. The next, a figure materialized at the edge of the illuminated zone, like she'd been sculpted from the storm itself. She was small, slight, soaked through. Her hair was plastered to her skull. Ice had formed on her jacket in jagged, crystalline patterns. Her face was pale, bloodless, empty of expression. She stopped exactly 10 feet from the gate and looked directly at them. Reeves's hand was fully on his weapon now. "Ma'am, this is a restricted area. You need to..." "I need to speak with General Adrian Weller," the girl said. Her voice was quiet, flat, utterly calm. It cut through the wind like a scalpel. Liu glanced at Reeves, then back at the girl. Ma'am, I don't know who told you there was a general here, but you've got the wrong place. This is private property. You need to turn around and I need a rifle, she said. Both guards froze. What? Reeves said. A rifle, the girl repeated, as if she were ordering coffee. M4 platform, preferably. Suppressed if available. I'll also need access to your operations center and a secure line to Washington. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. Then Liu started laughing. It wasn't mean-spirited. It was the kind of laughter that came from pure disbelief, the brain's way of processing something so absurd it couldn't possibly be real. He looked at Reeves, still chuckling. Did she just... Yeah, Reeves said. She's serious? I think she's serious. Liu turned back to the girl, shaking his head. Okay, listen. I don't know if you're lost or high or having some kind of episode, but this is a bad place to be right now. There's a ranger station about 6 miles south. If you can make it back to the main road, your thermal sensors have a blind spot, the girl said. Liu's smile died. Northwest quadrant, 30 yards past the fence line. The coverage overlaps create a dead zone approximately 8 feet wide. You can walk right through it if you know the timing. Your motion detectors are calibrated for large mammals, deer, elk. Anything under 120 pounds moving slow enough won't trigger the alert, and your ground pressure plates stop at the tree line because the roots interfere with the readings. She said it all in the same empty, factual tone, like she was reading from a manual. Reeves' weapon was out now, not aimed, but ready. How the hell do you know that? The girl didn't answer. She just kept looking at him with those flat, unreadable eyes. Liu reached for his radio. Gate 1 to command. We've got a situation. I'm out. Inside the operations center, Colonel Marcus Hale was halfway through a very bad cup of coffee when the call came in. He set the mug down, frowning at the monitor showing the exterior gate feed. The image was distorted by snow, but he could make out 2 figures at the checkpoint and a third, smaller, thinner, standing just outside the perimeter. Say again, Gate 1? We've got an unidentified civilian at the main entrance, sir. Female, late teens, soaking wet. She's asking for General Weller by name and requesting access to a firearm. Hale blinked. She what? She also just described our sensor grid layout like she designed it herself, sir. That got Hale's full attention. He leaned forward, fingers flying over the keyboard, pulling up every angle the cameras could give him. Thermal, night vision, standard optical. The girl didn't move. She just stood there, waiting, while the storm tried to bury her alive. Does she have identification? Negative, sir. No ID, no visible weapons, no gear, just the clothes on her back. Hale studied her face on the screen. Even through the degraded footage, something about her stillness made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. She wasn't shivering, wasn't shifting her weight, wasn't doing any of the 1,000 little things people did when they were cold and scared and trying to survive. She looked like she was waiting for a bus. Bring her inside, Hale said. Full security protocol. Separate interrogation room. No contact with base personnel. And get Captain Cross down here. Now. Copy that, sir. Hale killed the connection and sat back in his chair, staring at the motionless figure on the screen. Who the hell are you? Yet. They brought her in with the kind of caution usually reserved for unexploded ordnance. 4 armed guards escorted her through 3 security checkpoints, 2 biometric scanners, and 1 metal detector that screamed when she passed through it. They found the source immediately, a small steel pin holding together the torn knee of her cargo pants. No weapons, no electronics, no hidden devices. Just a girl, soaked and freezing and impossibly calm. They put her in interview room C, a windowless steel box with a bolted-down table, 2 chairs, and a one-way mirror built into the east wall. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like trapped insects. The air smelled like disinfectant and old fear. Lena sat in the far chair, hands folded on the table, and waited. She didn't look around, didn't test the door, didn't glance at the mirror to see who might be watching. She just sat, spine straight, shoulders level, breathing slow and controlled. On the other side of the glass, Colonel Marcus Hale stood with his arms crossed, watching her with the focused intensity of a man trying to solve a puzzle that might explode. Beside him, Captain Nina Cross, intelligence officer, interrogation specialist, and the sharpest analytical mind on the base, studied the girl with narrowed eyes. She's been sitting like that for 8 minutes, Cross said quietly. No fidgeting, no nervous tics. Respiratory rate is 14 breaths per minute. That's yoga instructor calm. Or shock, Hale said. Shock victims don't describe classified sensor layouts. Hale grunted. Run her face through the database. Everything. NCIC, Interpol, DoD personnel records, CIA watch lists. I want to know who she is before I put someone in there with her. Already running? Cross tilted her head, still watching. She's trained, Marcus. Look at the way she's sitting, centered, balanced, ready to move. That's not something you pick up from a self-defense class. That's drilled-in muscle memory. You think she's military? I think she's something. Before Hale could respond, the door to the observation room opened and Logan Red walked in. Major Logan Red was Special Operations Command, a former Green Beret who'd spent 15 years kicking doors in countries that didn't officially exist on the mission logs. He was 6'2", all lean muscle and scar tissue, with a buzz cut going gray at the temples and eyes that had seen enough violence to recognize it on sight. He glanced at the monitor, then at Hale. This the gatecrasher? That's her? Logan studied the girl for a long moment. She asked for a weapon? M4 platform, suppressed if available. Cute, Logan smirked. What did Psych say? We haven't run a psych eval yet. She just got here. You want me to talk to her? Hale considered it. Logan was good at reading people, good at applying pressure, good at finding the cracks in a story and prying them wide open. If anyone could get answers out of this girl, it was him. Yeah, Hale said, but keep it tight. I want to know who she is, how she got here, and why she knows things she shouldn't. Don't engage if she escalates. Logan grinned. When have I ever escalated? Cross didn't look away from the glass. Do you want the list alphabetically or chronologically? Logan ignored her and pushed through the door into the interrogation room. What? Lena didn't react when he entered. She just watched him with those flat, unblinking eyes as he pulled out the chair across from her, spun it around backward, and straddled it like he was settling in for a long conversation. Hell of a night to be out for a walk, Logan said. Lena said nothing. You got a name? Silence. Logan leaned forward, resting his forearms on the back of the chair. Okay, let's try this differently. I'm Major Logan Red. This is a United States military installation. You're trespassing on federal property. That's a felony. You also claim knowledge of classified security systems, which is either espionage or a really stupid bluff. Either way, you're in a lot of trouble unless you start talking. Lena tilted her head slightly, studying him. You served in Afghanistan. 3 tours. Second one left a scar on your left rib cage from an IED fragment. You compensate for it when you move, favoring your right side by about 8 degrees. Logan went very still. You carry your sidearm lower than regulation, Lena continued in that same flat, factual tone. Probably because of an old shoulder injury, rotator cuff, if I had to guess. You're right-handed, but you've trained yourself to shoot left-handed as a backup. That takes discipline. You're good at what you do. She paused. But you underestimate people who don't look like threats. The room had gone very, very quiet. Logan's jaw tightened. How do you know that? Because you walked in here assuming I'm a lost, scared girl who stumbled into the wrong place. Lena's voice didn't change. You're wrong. On the other side of the glass, Hale leaned closer to the monitor. Cross was already pulling up Logan's service record. She's right. He took shrapnel in Kandahar, 2012. Medical eval noted reduced mobility in the left torso, and he does carry low. We've written him up for it twice. Hale's mouth was a thin line. Who the hell is this girl? Logan hadn't moved. He was staring at Lena like she had just reached into his chest and pulled out his own beating heart. You've got 30 seconds to tell me who you are and what you want, he said, voice low and dangerous. Or this conversation is over, and you spend the night in a cell waiting for federal agents who aren't going to be as friendly as me. Lena met his gaze without flinching. Then, slowly, deliberately, she rolled up the left sleeve of her jacket. The skin of her inner forearm was pale, almost translucent, and burned into the flesh, stark and black and impossible to miss, was a symbol, a stylized claw mark. 3 talon slashes, sharp, deliberate, permanent. Logan's face went white. Hale's coffee mug hit the floor and shattered. Cross grabbed the edge of the table to steady herself. No, that's not... Get Weller, Hale said, voice shaking. Get him now, Shashrat. General Adrian Weller arrived 40 minutes later. He came in from the eastern helipad, flanked by two armed escorts and moving with the clipped, controlled urgency of a man who'd just had his entire evening detonated. He was 63 years old, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, with the kind of command presence that made junior officers straighten their spines from 50 feet away. He also looked like he'd just seen a ghost. Hale met him in the corridor outside the observation room. "Sir, Show me." Hale stepped aside. Weller moved to the glass and looked through. Lena was still sitting in the same position, sleeves still rolled up, marks still visible under the harsh fluorescent lights. Weller stared at it for a long time. Then he closed his eyes, exhaled slowly, and said, "Clear the room." Hale hesitated. "Sir, if she's—" "Clear the room, Colonel. That's an order." Hale nodded and gestured to Cross and Logan. They filed out in silence, leaving Weller alone in the observation room. For a long moment, he just stood there, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the girl on the other side of the glass. Then he walked into the interrogation room and sat down across from her. Lena looked up. "Hello, Lena," Weller said quietly. Her expression didn't change. "General?" "I didn't think I'd ever see that mark again." "Neither did I." Weller's gaze flicked to the symbol on her arm, then back to her face. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "How old are you?" 18. "That's impossible. The program ended 20 years ago. You would have been—" "-2, Lena finished. "I know the math, General. It doesn't add up, but here I am." Weller leaned back in his chair, studying her. "Who was your handler?" "Silas Vane." The name hit Weller like a punch. His hands tightened on the edge of the table. "Vane is dead." "No," Lena said. "He's not. We burned his facility to the ground. We recovered bodies. DNA confirmed—" "You recovered the bodies he wanted you to find." Lena's voice was still calm, still empty. "Vane didn't die, General. He just went deeper, and he took the program with him." Weller's face had gone pale. "How many?" 12 of us, maybe more. I left before I could get a final count." "Left?" Lena nodded once. 3 weeks ago. I walked out during a training exercise in the Bitterroots. Vane's people have been hunting me ever since." Weller processed that. "Why come here?" "Because Vane is planning something big, and this base is the target." The air in the room seemed to freeze. Weller's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Explain." Lena leaned forward, and for the first time, something flickered behind her eyes. Something sharp and urgent and real. "This installation houses the Black Talon archive," she said. "Every file, every psychological profile, every training protocol from the original program. Vane wants it. He's been planning this raid for 6 months. He's going to hit you tonight, during the storm, when visibility is 0 and reinforcements can't get through." "That's impossible. This location is—" "Classified. I know. So is the archive. But Vane helped build Black Talon, General. He knows where everything is, and he's coming to take it back." Weller stared at her. Then he stood up, walked to the door, and yanked it open. "Hale, get in here. Now, Shai." The briefing room filled in under 3 minutes. Hale, Cross, Red, and 4 other senior staff crowded around the table while Weller stood at the head, arms crossed, face carved from stone. Lena sat at the far end, still calm, still centered, watching them all with that same unnerving stillness. "Talk," Weller said. Lena spoke in the same flat, precise tone she'd used since the moment she arrived. No emotion, no embellishment, just facts. Silas Vane continued Project Black Talon after the official shutdown in 2004. He relocated to a facility in western Montana, off-grid, privately funded, completely invisible. He recruited children between the ages of 4 and 7. Orphans, mostly. Kids with no families, no records, no one to miss them. He trained us the same way the original operatives were trained. Psychological conditioning, combat skills, tactical analysis, weapons proficiency, interrogation resistance. By the time we were 12, we could navigate hostile terrain, bypass security systems, and eliminate targets without hesitation. Cross looked like she might be sick. "You're saying Vane built a child army?" "I'm saying he built assets," Lena corrected. "We weren't soldiers. Soldiers have names, ranks, rights. We had numbers and functions. I was Indigo 7, infiltration and long-range precision." Logan leaned forward, jaw tight. "And you just walked away?" "I saw an opportunity and took it." Vane's people are good, but they're not perfect. They didn't expect anyone to run, because no one ever had. Why not? Hale asked. Lena's gaze shifted to him. Because Vane doesn't just train you. He breaks you first. He makes you believe there's nothing outside the program, no future, no hope, no reason to leave. Her voice softened, just barely. But I had a reason. What reason? Weller asked. Lena looked directly at him. My mother. The room went silent. A lot of us, Lena said quietly. Original Black Talon operative, KIA in 2006 during an operation in Chechnya. At least, that's what the official report says. Weller's face drained of color. Lena. She's my mother, General. Vane told me when I turned 16. He said I was her replacement, that I was supposed to be better than her. Stronger, faster, perfect. Lena's hands curled into fists on the table. I want to know if that's true. I want to know who she really was. And I can't do that if Vane gets his hands on the archive. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the alarm started screaming. The sound was deafening, a pulsing, high-pitched wail that tore through the entire facility like a living thing. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridors, boots pounded against tile. Voices shouted over radios. Hale was on his feet instantly, grabbing his sidearm. Report! The tactical monitor lit up with incoming data. Cross pulled it onto the main screen, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Perimeter breach, northeast sector, multiple contacts. Thermal signatures show at least 6 hostiles moving through the tree line. Logan's weapon was already in his hand. How the hell did they get past the sensors? They didn't, Lena said, still seated, still calm. They went around them, same blind spot I described earlier. Hale spun on her. You knew this was coming? I told you, Vane's hitting you tonight. And you didn't think to lead with that? I did. You didn't believe me. Weller slammed his hand on the table. Tactical options. Now. Cross was already pulling up the base layout. Security teams are mobilizing, but we're down to a skeleton crew because of the storm. Full staff is 18 and 6 of them are non-combat analysts. If they're coming in force, they are, Lena interrupted. Vane doesn't do half measures. He's sending at least 12 operators, probably more. Logan stared at her. You know the assault plan? I helped write it. That stopped everyone cold. Lena stood, rolling down her sleeve. Vane trains every asset on every operation. We plan them together, run simulations, identify weaknesses. I know how he thinks, I know how his people move, and I know how to stop them. Hale's jaw tightened. You expect us to trust you? No, Lena said simply. I expect you to use me. Weller looked at her for a long, hard moment. Then he turned to Logan. Arm her. Logan's eyes widened. Sir, are you? That's an order, Major. Logan's face twisted with frustration, but he didn't argue, but he didn't. He unholstered his sidearm, checked the chamber, and set it on the table in front of Lena. She looked down at the weapon. Then she looked up at Logan. I need a rifle, she said. Logan's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Are you serious right now? Lena didn't blink. The primary threat is a sniper positioned approximately 400 meters northeast of the installation. Elevated position, thermal camouflage, suppressed rifle. He's covering the approach for the assault team. If you send your people out there without neutralizing him first, they're dead before they clear the door. Hale leaned over the monitor, pulling up the exterior camera feeds. The storm was still raging, visibility near zero. We can't even see 400 meters. I can, Lena said. Logan laughed, short, bitter, disbelieving. You can't be serious. Lena met his gaze. Give me a rifle, Major, or watch your people die. Your choice. The room held its breath. Then Logan turned to Weller. Sir, this is insane. We don't know her. We don't know what she's capable of. For all we know, she's part of the attack. Weller didn't look away from Lena. Is that true? No, Lena said. Then prove it. Lena nodded once. Logan stared at them both like they'd lost their minds. Then, with a growl of frustration, he stalked out of the room and returned 30 seconds later with a Remington M24 sniper rifle. Scoped, suppressed, loaded. He slammed it on the table in front of her. There's your rifle, he said, voice tight with anger. You've got one shot to prove you're not full of it. Miss, and I put you in a cell myself. Lena picked up the weapon, checked the chamber, tested the weight, adjusted the scope with practiced mechanical precision. Then she slung it over her shoulder and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Hale demanded. Lena stopped at the threshold and looked back. "To save your lives," she said, and then she was gone. The storm outside was biblical. Wind howled through the trees like something alive and furious. Snow came down in sheets, thick and blinding. The temperature had dropped to 12 below zero, the kind of cold that turned exposed skin black in minutes. Lena walked into it like she was stepping into a warm room. She moved through the exterior door, past the guards scrambling to defensive positions, and out into the open field beyond the perimeter fence. The world disappeared around her. White noise, white chaos, white nothing. But Lena didn't slow down. She dropped to one knee in the snow, brought the rifle up, and went perfectly still. What? Inside the operations center, every eye was locked on the thermal monitor. They could see her outline, small, motionless, alone in the middle of the storm. Beyond her, scattered through the trees, were the heat signatures of the advancing assault team, and somewhere in the darkness, invisible even to thermal imaging, was the sniper. "She's insane," Logan muttered. "She can't even see the target." Cross didn't answer. She was watching the girl on the screen, heart pounding. Weller stood with his arms crossed, jaw tight, waiting. Timmed. Lena closed her eyes. The world fell away. She didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't second guess. She just felt it. The wind, the cold, the rhythm of the storm. She let it all flow through her, over her, around her, until she wasn't separate from it anymore. She was part of it. Her breathing slowed. 14 breaths per minute. 12. 10. She opened her eyes. Through the scope, the world was a gray-white blur. Visibility, 0. But Lena didn't need to see. She felt the wind shift, west to east, gusting at 32 knots. She calculated the drop-over distance, adjusted for temperature, for altitude, for the curvature of the earth itself. She found the rhythm of the storm. And then, in the space between one heartbeat and the next, the wind stopped. Just for a second, just long enough. Lena exhaled, squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked once. Silent, clean, perfect. Inside the operations center, the radio crackled. "Tango down!" Logan's mouth fell open. Cross grabbed the edge of the table, staring at the monitor. Weller didn't move, didn't speak. He just watched the small, motionless figure kneeling in the snow, and for the first time in 20 years, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, Alara Voss's daughter was exactly who she said she was. The girl walked back inside, frost on her sleeves and death in her hands, and the storm raged on. Lena stepped back through the exterior door and the blast of warmth hit her like a wall. She didn't react to it, didn't shiver, didn't exhale in relief, didn't acknowledge the shift from killing cold to artificial heat. She just moved through the security checkpoint with the rifle still slung over her shoulder, snowmelt dripping from her jacket onto the tile floor. The guard stared at her like she'd just walked out of a nightmare and back into the waking world. Logan was waiting in the corridor, arms crossed, face carved from stone. He watched her approach with the kind of focused intensity people reserved for bomb disposal or wild animals, something dangerous that required absolute attention. "Clean hit?" he asked, voice clipped. "Center mass," Lena said. "He's done." Logan's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, wanted to demand proof, verification, confirmation from someone other than the ghost-eyed teenager who'd just walked into a blizzard and claimed to drop a target they couldn't even see. But the radio on his belt crackled before he could speak. "All units, be advised. Thermal signature in northeast quadrant has gone cold. No movement detected. Repeat, Tango is neutralized." The words hung in the air like smoke. Logan stared at her. "How?" Lena didn't answer. She just unslung the rifle, checked the chamber out of habit, and handed it back to him grip first. He took it slowly, like he was accepting evidence in a case he didn't understand. "The assault team is still moving," Lena said, already turning toward the operations center. "They'll adapt. Vane trains redundancy into every plan. Losing the sniper buys you 5 minutes, maybe less. Wait." But she was already walking, boots squeaking against wet tile, moving with that same eerie calm she'd carried since the moment she stepped out of the storm. Logan followed, and he hated himself a little for it. The operations center had transformed into controlled chaos. Hale stood at the tactical console, barking orders into a headset while cross-coordinated defensive positions on the live map. Weller hovered near the back, hands clasped behind him, watching everything with the sharp-eyed focus of a man who'd spent 40 years learning to read battles before they happened. Lena walked straight to the map and studied it in silence. Cross noticed her first. "You're back." "The sniper's down," Lena said, not looking up. "But they already know. They'll shift to Plan B, close quarters breach through the eastern maintenance corridor. It's the only approach with enough cover to avoid your remaining overwatch positions." Hale pulled off his headset. "We sealed that corridor 2 hours ago. Standard storm protocol. It won't matter. Vane's people are trained to bypass physical barriers. Locks, welds, reinforced doors. They'll get through in under 90 seconds. "That's impossible." Lena finally looked at him. "You keep using that word. It doesn't mean what you think it means." Cross stepped between them before Hale could respond. "If you're right, if they breach through the east corridor, what's the objective?" "Server room," Lena said immediately. "Sub-level 2. That's where the archive is stored. Physical drives, air-gapped from external networks. They can't hack it remotely, so they're coming to take it by force." Weller moved closer, his shadow falling across the map. "How many operators?" 12 on the assault team. 4 for the breach, 4 for security suppression, 4 for extraction. They'll move fast, hit hard, grab the drives, and disappear before you can coordinate a response. Logan had been listening from the doorway. Now he pushed into the room, still holding the rifle Lena had used. "And you know all this because you helped plan it." "Yes." "So you're a traitor." Lena turned to face him fully. "I'm the reason you're not already dead." The room went very quiet. Logan's grip tightened on the rifle. "You walked into a federal installation, demanded a weapon, and fed us intelligence about an attack you claim is happening right now. For all we know, you're running interference while your people gut this place from the inside." "If I wanted you dead," Lena said, voice flat and empty, "I would have let the sniper do his job. Your Northeast team would be gone. Your response time would be cut in half. And by the time you figured out what was happening, Vane's people would already be inside. Or maybe you're just covering your own—" "Major!" Weller's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Stand down." Logan's jaw worked, but he obeyed. He stepped back, still watching Lena like she might explode at any second. Weller turned to her. "You said they'd breach through the eastern corridor. How do we stop them?" Lena studied the map again. "You don't. Not from here. You need someone inside the corridor to disrupt the breach before it completes. Someone who knows how they operate." "We don't have anyone trained for—" "I am." Hale shook his head. "Absolutely not. We're not sending you into—" "Then they'll get through," Lena interrupted. "And they'll take the archive. And Vane will disappear for another 20 years while he builds the next generation of people like me. Your choice." Weller looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked at Hale. "Give her a weapon." Hale's face flushed red. "Sir, with all due respect, this is insane. We don't know her. We don't know where her loyalties—" "She just killed a sniper we couldn't see in conditions that would ground a helicopter," Weller said quietly. "I know enough. General—" "That's an order, Colonel." The silence that followed was sharp enough to draw blood. Hale turned to Logan. "Gear her up. Standard loadout. No explosives, no restricted tech. And if she even looks like she's turning on us—" "I'll handle it," Logan said, voice hard. Lena didn't react. She just waited, hands at her sides, while the room reorganized itself around her. Cross pulled up the corridor schematics. Eastern access runs from the exterior fence to the sub-level stairwell. 300 feet, narrow passage, no cover. If they're breaching from outside, they'll use a thermal lance to cut through the outer door. That gives you maybe 2 minutes before they're inside. "Enough," Lena said. Logan gestured toward the door. "Let's go." "What?" The armory was a narrow, fluorescent-lit room that smelled like gun oil and old concrete. Rows of weapon racks lined the walls. Rifles, sidearms, tactical shotguns, all locked behind steel mesh. Logan moved through it with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. He pulled a Glock 19 from the rack, checked the chamber, and set it on the table. Then a tactical vest, spare magazines, a flashlight, a radio. Lena watched in silence. Logan glanced at her. "You know how to use all this?" "Yes." "Prove it." Lena picked up the Glock, ejected the magazine, checked the chamber, reloaded, and chambered a round in less than 3 seconds. Then she set it down and met his gaze. Logan's expression didn't change. "Cute trick. Doesn't mean I trust you." "I don't need you to trust me," Lena said. "I need you to stay out of my way." Logan stepped closer, and this time there was real heat in his eyes. "You think you're the first person to walk in here with a sob story and insider knowledge? You think I haven't seen this play before? Girl shows up, offers help, turns out to be exactly what we were running from in the first place." "I'm not here to play games, Major." "Then what are you here for?" Lena's gaze didn't waver. "To stop the people who made me." "By becoming exactly what they trained you to be?" "By using what they gave me against them." Logan studied her, and for a moment something flickered in his expression, something that wasn't anger or suspicion. It was recognition. He'd seen that look before. In the mirror. In the faces of operators who'd spent too long in the dark and couldn't find their way back into the light. "You don't get out," he said quietly. "Not really. Once they break you down and rebuild you into something else, you don't just walk away clean. It stays with you. In your hands, in your sleep, in the way you see people." Lena's voice was softer now. "I know." "Then you know this doesn't end well for you." It never was going to. The words hung between them like a confession. Logan exhaled slowly, then grabbed the vest and handed it to her. "Corridor access is through the north stairwell. You've got 4 minutes to get into position before they hit the outer door. Radio stays open. You report every 30 seconds. Miss a check-in and I'm pulling you out." "Understood." Logan reached for the radio, hesitated, then looked at her one more time. "Why are you really doing this?" Lena pulled the vest over her shoulders and tightened the straps. "Because no one else will." "What?" The eastern maintenance corridor was exactly as cold and narrow as Cross had described. Lena moved through it in near total darkness, flashlight off, navigating by memory and the faint glow of emergency exit signs spaced every 50 feet. The air smelled like rust and stale water. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping condensation onto the concrete floor. Somewhere far above, she could hear boots pounding and voices shouting as the base scrambled to lockdown. But down here, she was alone. Her radio crackled. "Check in." "Position secure," Lena said quietly. "No contact." Logan's voice came back flat and professional. "Thermal's picking up movement outside the eastern perimeter. They're setting up for the breach." "Time to breach?" 90 seconds. Lena moved deeper into the corridor, boots silent on wet concrete. She could see the outer door now, a reinforced steel barrier set into the far wall, sealed with electromagnetic locks and a manual deadbolt the size of her forearm. It wouldn't be enough. She dropped to one knee, set the flashlight on the ground, and pulled the Glock from her holster. Then she waited. The radio crackled again. 60 seconds. Lena closed her eyes and let the world narrow to breath and heartbeat. She'd been in situations like this before. Tight spaces. Unknown variables. No backup. Vane had trained them to thrive in chaos, to move through it like water through cracks. He used to say that fear was just bad data, noise in the system that got people killed. Lena had learned to filter the noise. 30 seconds. They're lighting the torch. She could hear it now, a faint hissing sound from the other side of the door. The thermal lance. It would cut through steel like butter, moving in a perfect circle to sever the lock mechanism. 30 seconds. Maybe less. Lena's grip on the Glock tightened. The hissing grew louder. Sparks began to appear around the door's edge, bright and white-hot, raining onto the floor like tiny stars. "Breach in 10, Logan's voice said. 9, 8. Lena stood, angling herself behind a support pillar 3 feet from the door. 7, 6. The circle of sparks completed. The lock mechanism glowed red. 5, 4. The door shuddered. 3, 2. The door exploded inward, whomped. They came through fast. 2 operators in full tactical gear, night vision goggles, suppressed rifles up and sweeping. Professional, precise. Exactly the way Vane had trained them. Lena let them take 3 steps into the corridor. Then she moved. The first operator never saw her. She came out of the shadows like something born from them. Glock raised and put 2 rounds center mass before he could pivot. He went down hard, weapon clattering against concrete. The second operator spun, bringing his rifle around. Lena was already inside his guard. She drove her elbow into his throat, grabbed the rifle barrel, and used his own momentum to slam him face first into the wall. He dropped like a sack of wet sand. Silence. Lena stood over the bodies, breathing controlled, weapons still raised. The radio on the first operator's chest crackled. A voice came through, clipped and calm. Alpha 2, report. Lena knelt, grabbed the radio, and crushed it under her boot. Then she keyed her own radio. 2 down. Breach interrupted. Logan's voice came back sharp with adrenaline. Say again? Breach interrupted. 2 hostiles neutralized. Corridor secure. There was a pause. Then, are you hit? Negative. Another pause. Longer this time. Copy that. Hold position. We're sending backup. Negative, Lena said. They'll send more operators through the breach. I'm moving to the exterior access point. That's a direct order to hold. Lena switched off the radio. She moved past the bodies, through the blown open door, and out into the storm. But the world outside was still white chaos and screaming wind. Lena crouched low, moving along the tree line, scanning for movement. The thermal lance was still burning on the ground near the breached door, casting flickering orange light across the snow. And 30 feet to her left, half hidden behind a cluster of pines, were the remaining operators. She counted 4. All armed, all watching the corridor entrance, waiting for their team to report back. Lena circled wide, moving through the storm like a ghost. Snow clung to her jacket, her hair, her eyelashes. The cold didn't register anymore. She was beyond it now, locked into the same mechanical focus Vane had drilled into her skull over 1,000 training runs. She got within 20 feet before one of them noticed. He turned, rifle coming up. Lena fired twice. He went down. The others scattered, diving for cover, shouting into their radios. Suppressed gunfire cracked through the storm. Rounds tore through the trees around her, spraying bark and ice. Lena moved. She didn't run. Running got you killed. She flowed, low, fast, angling from cover to cover, using the storm and the darkness and the chaos to stay invisible. She dropped behind a fallen tree, counted to 3, then rose and fired again. Another operator went down. The remaining 2 pulled back, retreating toward the fence line. One of them was shouting into his radio, voice tight with panic. We're compromised. Repeat, we are compromised. Lena stepped out of the storm and shot him in the chest. The last operator spun, weapon raised, finger on the trigger, and froze. Because Lena wasn't aiming at him anymore. She'd lowered her weapon and was just standing there, 10 feet away, watching him through the snow. Damon, she said quietly. The operator went very still. Slowly, he reached up and pulled off his night vision goggles. The face beneath was young, maybe 20, with sharp features and eyes that had seen too much too soon. He stared at Lena like he was seeing a ghost. Indigo 7, he said, voice shaking. It's Lena, now. Damon's grip on his rifle tightened. You left. Yeah. They said you were dead. They lied. Damon's jaw worked. His finger stayed on the trigger, but he didn't fire. Vane's going to kill you for this. He can try. You don't understand. He's not going to stop. He'll hunt you down, find everyone you care about, and burn them just to make a point. That's what he does. That's what he is. Lena's voice stayed calm. I know. Then why are you doing this? Because someone has to. Damon stared at her, and something in his expression cracked. You can't win. You're one person. He's got resources, operatives, facilities we don't even know about yet. You walk away from this, you live. You keep fighting, you die. Maybe, Lena said, but I'm not walking away. Damon's hands were shaking now. Why? Because I met the people Vane wants us to become, and I don't want to be them. For a long moment, the only sound was the wind. Then Damon lowered his rifle. Neither do I, he said quietly. What? They walked back to the base together, 2 ghosts in the storm, and when the guards at the gate saw them coming, they didn't know whether to shoot or salute. Lena handed Damon over to Logan, who cuffed him and read him his rights in a voice that was still sharp with adrenaline and disbelief. Weller stood in the corridor, watching Lena with an expression she couldn't quite read. 4 hostiles down, she said. 1 detained. The breach is sealed. Weller nodded slowly. You disobeyed a direct order. Yes, sir. You went outside the wire without backup. Yes, sir. You engaged a superior force alone. Yes, sir. Weller studied her. Then, quietly, you also saved this installation and everyone in it. Lena didn't respond. Weller stepped closer. You said your mother was Alara Voss. Yes. I knew her. We served together before Black Talon. She was one of the best operators I ever worked with. Smart, disciplined, fearless. He paused. And she never followed orders either. Something shifted in Lena's chest. Small, fragile, unexpected. Is that why she died? Lena asked. Weller's face softened. No. She died because she went into a situation no one should have survived and got 3 hostages out alive. She stayed behind to make sure they made it. That's who she was. Lena looked away, jaw tight. She would have been proud of you, Weller said quietly. Lena didn't trust herself to speak, so she just nodded once. They interrogated Damon in the same steel room where they'd questioned Lena hours earlier. He sat with his hands cuffed to the table, staring at the one-way mirror like he could see through it. Cross ran the interrogation. Logan stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching every breath Damon took. How many facilities does Vane operate? Cross asked. 3 that I know of, Damon said. Montana, Wyoming, Northern California, maybe more. How many operatives? Active? 12. In training? Maybe 20. Logan leaned forward. Ages? Damon's jaw tightened. 4 to 16. Cross closed her eyes briefly. And tonight's objective? Black Talon Archive. Vane wants the original training protocols. He thinks they're better than what he's developed on his own. Why now? Because someone leaked the archive's location. Vane's been hunting for it for years. 2 months ago, he finally got confirmation. Weller's voice came through the intercom. Who leaked it? Damon looked up at the mirror. I don't know. Vane keeps that compartmentalized, but whoever it was, they're inside your system. The room went very quiet. Hale swore under his breath. Cross pulled out her phone and started typing furiously. Logan's expression darkened, and in the observation room, Weller stood with his hands behind his back, staring at nothing. We've got a mole, he said quietly. They moved the archive at 0400 hours, while the storm was still raging and the world was buried in snow and darkness. 6 armed guards escorted the physical drives from Sublevel 2 to a secure transport vehicle waiting in the underground garage. Weller supervised personally. Hale ran counter-surveillance. Cross monitored every camera, every access point, every potential breach vector. Lena stood in the operations center, watching it all unfold on the monitors. Logan appeared beside her, holding 2 cups of terrible coffee. He handed her one. You don't drink coffee, he said. No. Neither do I, but it's something to hold. Lena took the cup anyway. They stood in silence for a moment, watching the convoy prepare to move. That thing you did in the corridor, Logan said quietly. Taking down 2 operators in under 5 seconds. Where'd you learn that? Vane. And the shot in the storm? Fine. Logan nodded slowly. He turned you into a weapon. Yes. And now you're using it against him. Yes. Logan looked at her. Does it ever get easier, knowing what you are? Lena met his gaze. No. Good, Logan said. The day it gets easy is the day you're lost. Lena didn't respond, but something in her chest loosened just a little. The convoy began to move, rolling out of the garage and into the storm. Weller's voice came over the radio, calm and controlled. Transport is mobile, ETA to secondary site, 90 minutes. Cross acknowledged. Hale coordinated the escort team. The base settled into the tense, watchful quiet of a mission in progress. And somewhere in the forest beyond the fence, hidden in the storm and the darkness, Silas Vane watched it all unfold and smiled. Because the archive was never the real target. The girl was. The realization hit Lena like a bullet she hadn't seen coming. She set down the coffee cup, too fast, too hard, liquid sloshing over the rim, and her entire body went rigid. Logan noticed immediately. He'd spent enough time around operators to recognize the shift from alert to combat ready in the space between heartbeats. What? He said. Lena's eyes were locked on the monitor showing the convoy's path. The armored transport was already half a mile from the base, moving through the storm with its escort vehicles flanking. Standard protocol. Perfect execution. Too perfect. They're not after the archive, she said. Logan frowned. What are you talking about? We just watched them breach the breach was a diversion. Lena turned to face him, and her eyes had gone cold. Vane knew you'd move the archive if you felt threatened. He knew exactly how you'd react. That doesn't make any... He wanted me here, Lena interrupted, voice flat and certain. The assault, the sniper, the breach team, all of it was designed to force me into the open, to prove I was real, to confirm I'd turned against him. Logan's hand drifted toward his sidearm. Why? Because I'm the only one who knows where the other facilities are. I'm the only asset who's ever successfully left the program, and Vane doesn't leave loose ends. Cross had been listening from across the room. Now she moved closer, fingers already flying across her keyboard. If you're right, then what's the actual target? Lena's jaw tightened. Me? The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Logan pulled his radio. Hale, we need to recall the convoy, now. Static crackled back. Negative. We're committed to the route. ETA to secondary site is 70 minutes. Colonel, listen to me. Major, I don't have time for... The lights went out. Not just in the operations center. Everywhere. The entire base plunged into darkness so complete it felt solid. Emergency lighting kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in blood-red glow, but the damage was done. Every monitor was dead. Every computer terminal showed blank screens, the tactical displays, the security feeds, the communications array, all of it gone. Cross stared at her laptop. We're offline. Complete system failure. That's impossible, Logan said. We've got triple redundancy, isolated power grids. EMP, Lena said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. Vane used an electromagnetic pulse. Targeted, short range, probably triggered from inside the perimeter. It'll fry every electronic system within a quarter-mile radius. Your vehicles are dead. Your radios are dead. Your weapons optics are dead. She paused. And you're blind. Weller's voice cut through the darkness from the doorway. How long do we have? Lena met his gaze. They're already inside. The auxiliary power system came online 90 seconds later, but by then the base had transformed into a combat zone. Gunfire echoed through the corridors, sharp, controlled bursts that spoke of professional operators working in coordinated teams. Alarm klaxons wailed, boots pounded against tile. Somewhere on the upper level, glass shattered. Weller grabbed a radio, analog, hardened against EMP, and keyed it. All units, we are under attack. Hostile forces inside the perimeter. Rules of engagement are weapons free. Repeat, weapons free. The response was chaos. Multiple voices overlapping, shouting coordinates, calling for backup, reporting casualties. Logan grabbed his rifle. How many? At least 8, Lena said. Probably more. They'll move in 3-man teams, 1 point man, 1 breacher, 1 rear security. They'll clear the base room by room until they find me. Hale appeared in the doorway, face pale, uniform torn. They hit the convoy. IED on the access road. Transport is disabled, drivers are pinned down, and we've lost contact with the escort team. Weller's expression didn't change. Casualties? Unknown, but the archive is still in the vehicle. Then they'll come for it, Lena said. And they'll come for me. Vane's running a 2-prong operation. Extract the data, eliminate the defector. He gets both, he wins. Logan turned to her. Where would you hit first if you were running this? Lena didn't hesitate. Operations Center. Kill command and control, cut off communication between defensive units. Then the armory. Deny reinforcements access to heavy weapons. Then sub-level interrogation rooms where you're holding Damon, because he's a liability now. And finally, systematic room clearance until they find their primary target. You. Me. Weller looked at Hale. Get every available shooter to the operations center. Fortify the armory. Move Damon to the secure vault on Sub-3. Sir, we don't have enough personnel to... Then we hold what we can and abandon what we can't, Weller snapped. Move. Hale ran. Weller turned to Lena. You said you know how they think. I helped train half of them. Then how do we stop them? Lena was quiet for a moment. Then, you don't. They're too good, too disciplined, and they've been preparing for this longer than you've known they existed. You can slow them down, make them pay for every room, but you can't stop them. Logan's jaw tightened. So what do we do? Lena met his gaze. You let me draw them out. Absolutely not, Weller said. It's the only way. They're here for me. Give them a target, and they'll commit everything to the kill. That's when you hit them. While they're focused, while they're exposed. That's suicide. That's tactics. Cross looked up from her laptop. She's right. If we fortify and wait, they'll just pick us apart. But if we control the engagement point, we turn the hunter into the hunted, Logan finished. Weller stared at Lena. You're 18 years old, and I've been doing this since I was 6. That doesn't make it right. No, Lena said quietly, but it makes it true. The silence that followed was broken by another burst of gunfire, closer this time. Weller closed his eyes briefly. Then he looked at Logan. What do you need? They set the trap in the sub-level training facility, a wide-open space designed for close-quarters combat drills with multiple entry points and enough cover to make it interesting. Logan positioned Cross and 3 armed security personnel at elevated firing positions with overlapping fields of fire. He wired the main entrance with claymore mines set to remote detonation. He locked down every exit except 2, one leading to the eastern stairwell, one to the western corridor, and rigged both with pressure sensors. In the center of the room, under a single overhead light, Lena sat on a metal folding chair. No weapon, no vest, no radio, just bait. Logan crouched behind a concrete barrier 15 feet to her left, rifle trained on the main entrance. This is insane, he said into his throat mic. Noted, Cross replied from her position above. I'm serious. We're gambling everything on the assumption they'll come for her instead of the archive. They will, Lena said calmly. Vane's people are loyal, but they're not stupid. They know the archive is secondary. I'm the mission. And if you're wrong, then you were going to lose anyway. Logan wanted to argue, wanted to pull her out of that chair and lock her in the vault with Damon and every other piece of critical intelligence they had left. But he'd seen the footage of her taking down the breach team. He'd watched her walk into a blizzard and kill a target she couldn't see. She wasn't just bait, she was the sharpest piece on the board. 5 minutes, Cross said over the radio. They've cleared the upper levels. They're moving toward sub-level access. Lena closed her eyes and breathed. In, out, slow, controlled. She could hear Vane's voice in her head, calm and patient, the same tone he'd used when she was 8 years old and learning to field strip a rifle blindfolded. Fear is noise. Filter it. Focus on what you can control. She opened her eyes. The door to the main entrance opened. 3 operators came through fast and low, rifles up, moving in perfect synchronization. They scanned the room, identified Lena sitting under the light, and froze. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. Then the lead operator raised his hand, 2 fingers, pointing at Lena, then at himself. Standard tactical signal, target acquired. I have control. The other 2 spread out, covering the flanks. Lena didn't move, didn't speak, just sat there, hands folded in her lap, watching them with that same empty calm she'd carried since the moment she walked out of the storm. The lead operator moved closer, weapon trained on her center mass. Indigo 7. That's not my name anymore, Lena said. Doesn't matter what you call yourself, Vane wants you back. Vane can go to hell. The operator stopped 10 feet away. You know he won't stop. You know what happens to defectors. I know you're wasting time, Lena said. This is a trap. You walked right into it. And in about 10 seconds, you're going to realize just how badly you miscalculated. The operator's finger tightened on the trigger. Last chance. Come quietly, or Logan detonated the claymores. The explosion was deafening. The main entrance erupted in fire and shrapnel, tearing through the doorway and catching the rear operator mid-step. He went down screaming, his weapon clattering across the floor. The other 2 dove for cover, and Cross opened fire from above. Controlled bursts. 3-round groupings, professional and lethal. The second operator took 2 rounds to the chest and dropped. The lead operator rolled behind a concrete pillar, returning fire blind, trying to suppress the elevated position. Contact! We're engaged. Multiple hostiles. Request immediate. Lena was already moving. She came off the chair like a sprinter off the blocks, closing the distance in 4 long strides. The operator saw her coming, tried to pivot, tried to bring his rifle around. Lena grabbed the barrel, twisted it out of his hands, and drove her knee into his ribs hard enough to crack bone. He gasped, staggered. She reversed the rifle and slammed the stock into his face. He went down hard. Silence. Lena stood over him, chest heaving, rifle in her hands, while smoke drifted through the air and the emergency lights painted everything in shades of red and shadow. Logan emerged from cover, weapons still raised. Clear? Clear, Cross confirmed from above. Lena set the rifle down carefully and looked at Logan. That was the advance team. The rest are coming. How many? All of them. Well, they came through the western corridor 6 minutes later. 5 operators, full tactical loadout, moving with the kind of precision that came from 1,000 drills and zero tolerance for error. But this time, Logan was ready. He'd repositioned his team, collapsed the defensive perimeter, and turned the training facility into a kill box. Overlapping fields of fire. No cover for the attackers. Every angle accounted for. The operators breached hard and fast, and ran straight into a wall of coordinated gunfire. 2 went down in the first 3 seconds. The others scattered, trying to find cover that wasn't there, trying to return fire against enemies they couldn't see. Cross took the 3rd operator with a headshot at 40 yards. Logan dropped the 4th with a controlled burst to center mass. The 5th made it to the eastern corridor exit, and Lena stepped out of the shadows and put him down with 2 rounds from the Glock she'd pulled off the first breach team. The silence that followed was absolute. Logan lowered his rifle slowly, staring at the bodies scattered across the floor. That's it? No, Lena said. That's not even close. The explosion came from 3 floors above them. A thunderous, bone-shaking blast that sent dust raining down from the ceiling and knocked out half the emergency lights. Cross grabbed her radio. What the hell was that? Hale's voice came back tight with panic. They just blew the vault door. Repeat, the vault is compromised. They're inside. Lena's face went pale. Damon! She was running before anyone could stop her. The vault was carnage. 2 guards lay dead at the entrance, throats cut, weapons gone. The reinforced door had been blown off its hinges by a shaped charge, leaving a smoking hole big enough to drive a car through. Inside, the space was a concrete tomb lit by flickering emergency lights. And in the center, surrounded by 3 armed operators, was Damon. They had him on his knees, hands zip-tied behind his back, a gun pressed to the base of his skull. Lena stopped at the threshold, Glock raised, breathing hard. One of the operators, a woman, tall and lean, with cold eyes and a scar running from her temple to her jaw, smiled. Indigo 7. Been a long time. Juliet 3, Lena said quietly. It's Kira now. I got a name when I turned 18. Vane said I earned it. She nudged Damon with her boot. Unlike this one, still just a number, still just a tool. Damon's eyes were locked on Lena. There was blood running down the side of his face. Let him go, Lena said. Kira laughed. You don't give orders anymore, you're a defector, a traitor. And Vane wants you to watch what happens to traitors before you join them. Kira, he's done, Lena. He turned, just like you. And we don't leave loose ends. The operator holding the gun to Damon's head cocked the hammer. Lena's entire body went still. Don't. Give me one reason why not. Because I'm the one Vane really wants. Let Damon go, and I'll come back. No fight, no resistance. Just me for him. Kira studied her. You'd do that? Yes. Why? Lena's voice was quiet. Because he doesn't deserve to die for choosing to be human. For a moment, something flickered in Kira's expression. Something small and fragile and almost human. Then it was gone. Vane said you'd try this, said you'd go soft, said that's why you'd never make it. She gestured to the operator. Do it. Time fractured. Lena moved fast, faster than thought, faster than reflex, bringing the Glock up and firing in one smooth motion. The round caught the operator in the shoulder, spinning him away from Damon. Kira's weapon came up. Logan appeared in the doorway behind Lena and opened fire. The room erupted in chaos. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like lightning. Rounds sparked off concrete. Someone screamed. Lena dove forward, grabbed Damon, and dragged him behind a steel filing cabinet as bullets tore through the air where they'd been standing. Stay down, she shouted. Damon's eyes were wild. They're going to kill us. Not if I kill them first. She rolled out of cover, fired 3 times, 2 body shots, 1 headshot, and dropped the wounded operator before he could recover. Kira was already moving, fast and lethal, closing the distance with a knife in one hand and her sidearm in the other. Lena met her halfway. The knife came in low and fast, aiming for the gut. Lena deflected it, trapped Kira's wrist, and drove her elbow into Kira's face. Kira's head snapped back, but she didn't go down. She twisted, broke the hold, and came back with a leg sweep that sent Lena sprawling. They hit the ground together, grappling, trading blows with brutal efficiency. Kira got on top, knife raised. Lena caught her wrist with both hands, holding the blade inches from her throat. "You were always weaker than me," Kira hissed. Lena's eyes were cold. "I was always smarter." She drove her knee into Kira's ribs, rolled the leverage, and reversed their positions. Then she slammed Kira's knife hand against the concrete floor until the blade clattered away. Kira laughed, blood on her teeth. "You think this changes anything? You think you can just walk away and live a normal life? You're broken, Lena, just like me, just like all of us. And broken things don't get fixed." Lena leaned close, voice barely above a whisper. "Then I'll stay broken, but I won't stay his." She punched Kira once, hard, and the woman went limp. Silence. Lena stood slowly, chest heaving, hands shaking. Logan was at the door, rifle still raised. "You good?" "No," Lena said, "but I'm alive." She moved to Damon, pulled out a knife, and cut his zip ties. He stared at her like she'd just pulled him out of hell. "Why?" he whispered. "Because someone did it for my mother once," Lena said, "and I'm paying it forward." The base went quiet at 0523 hours. The storm had finally broken. Dawn was bleeding gray and cold across the snowfields. Emergency crews moved through the corridors, counting bodies, documenting damage, trying to make sense of what had just happened. 12 hostile operators neutralized. 4 base personnel KIA. 11 wounded. The archive was secure. Damon was in custody, voluntary this time, offering full cooperation. And Lena sat alone in the operations center, wrapped in a thermal blanket, staring at nothing. Weller found her there 20 minutes later. He sat down beside her without speaking. For a long time, they just existed in the same space, two people who'd survived something that should have killed them both. Finally, Weller said, "We recovered intel from the captured operators. Vane's main facility is in western Montana, approximately 200 miles from here. We're coordinating with federal agencies to—" "How many children?" Lena interrupted. Weller hesitated. "At least 6, ages 4 to 9. Lena's hands tightened on the blanket. "And you're coordinating?" "Yes." "How long will that take?" 72 hours, maybe more. We need warrants, jurisdiction, tactical planning. "He'll move them in 48, Lena said. "The moment he realizes this operation failed, he'll scatter the assets, burn the facility, and disappear. You'll never find him again." "Lena, I need to go now, today, before he runs." Weller looked at her. "You're asking me to send an 18-year-old girl into a black ops facility run by a man who just tried to kill her. I'm asking you to give me a head start before the bureaucracy buries those kids under red tape and they vanish forever." "I can't authorize that." "Then don't." Lena met his gaze. "Just look the other way for 6 hours." Weller was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He set it on the table between them. "Coordinates," he said quietly. "Best intelligence we have on the Montana facility, updated as of 4 hours ago." Lena stared at the paper. "You didn't get that from me," Weller continued, "and if anyone asks, I have no idea where you went." Lena picked up the paper, unfolded it, and memorized the numbers. Then she looked at him. "My mother. You said she got 3 hostages out alive." "She did." "Were any of them children?" Weller nodded slowly. "All 3. Lena's throat tightened. "Thank you." She stood, started to walk away. "Lena." She stopped. "Your mother asked me something once, the night before that last mission. She asked if I thought we were doing the right thing, training people to be weapons, sending them into places no one should have to go. What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know. But I knew that as long as people like her were the ones carrying the gun, maybe we had a chance at keeping the world from burning." He paused. "I was right then, and I think I'm right now." Lena didn't turn around, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "I'm not her." "No," Weller said. "You're better, because you chose this." She never got that choice. Lena walked out of the operations center and into the cold morning light. And behind her, Weller sat alone and wondered if he'd just saved a life or ended one. Logan caught up with her in the motor pool. She was loading gear into the back of a Jeep Wrangler, one of the few vehicles that had survived the EMP because it was old enough to run on analog systems. A rifle, ammunition, a medical kit, water, thermal clothing, everything she'd need for a 200-mile push through hostile terrain in late February. "You're really doing this," Logan said. Lena didn't look up. "Yes. Alone. It's the only way it works." Logan watched her secure the rifle in the cargo area. "You know I can't let you just drive off base without authorization." "I know. And you know Weller's gambling his career on the assumption you'll succeed." "I know that too." Logan was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled his sidearm, checked the chamber, and set it on the hood of the Jeep. "Take it. Backup weapon. You'll need it if things go sideways." Lena stared at the gun, then at him. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I've been where you are. Different war, different uniform, same feeling, knowing the system's going to fail the people who need it most unless someone breaks the rules." He paused. "And because you remind me of someone I used to know, before the job turned him into something else." "Who?" "Me." Lena picked up the sidearm and tucked it into her waistband. "If I don't come back—" "You'll come back," Logan said. "You're too stubborn to do anything else." Something almost like a smile flickered across Lena's face. Then she climbed into the Jeep, fired up the engine, and drove toward the gate without looking back. Logan stood in the motor pool and watched her disappear into the gray morning light. Then he pulled out his radio and keyed it. "Gate 1, this is Red, vehicle approaching your position. Let it through." The guard's voice crackled back, confused. "Sir, we're on full lockdown. No one's authorized to I'm authorizing it. Open the gate." A pause. Then, "Copy that, Major." Logan killed the connection and walked back into the base. And if anyone asked later, he'd have no idea how an 18-year-old girl managed to walk off a classified military installation in the middle of a security crisis. No idea at all. The drive took 4 hours. Lena pushed the Jeep hard, navigating backcountry roads that weren't on any map, using landmarks Damon had described during his debriefing. The storm had passed, leaving the world buried under 3 feet of fresh snow. The sky was pale and endless. The silence was absolute. She drove with the radio off and the windows cracked, letting the cold air keep her sharp. Every 15 minutes, she stopped to check the coordinates, cross-reference the terrain, and make sure she wasn't being followed. Vane's people would be hunting her now. She'd killed too many of them, exposed too much of the operation. They'd come fast and hard, and they wouldn't stop until she was dead or back in a cage. But Lena had spent 12 years learning to be invisible. She knew how to move through the world without leaving tracks. The facility appeared just after noon, a cluster of buildings hidden in a valley between 2 ridgelines, surrounded by dense forest and accessible only by a single unpaved road. From a distance, it looked like an abandoned logging camp, rusted equipment, collapsed sheds, nothing worth a second glance. But Lena knew better. She parked the Jeep 2 miles out, covered it with branches and snow, and moved the rest of the way on foot. The perimeter was exactly what she expected. Motion sensors disguised as tree stumps, pressure plates buried under the snow, thermal cameras hidden in the canopy. Vane had built the same security grid here that he'd drilled into her head at the Idaho base. She spent 90 minutes mapping the blind spots, timing the sensor sweeps, identifying the gaps in coverage. Then she walked through them like a ghost. The main building was a 2-story structure with reinforced windows and a single entrance on the north side. Guard rotation, 2 exterior, 1 interior. Standard protocol. Predictable. Lena moved to the western wall and waited. At 13:47 hours, the exterior guards rotated. One moved to the south perimeter, the other headed inside for a break. Lena had a 4-minute window. She used 3. The lock on the side door was a biometric scanner, fingerprint and retinal. Vane's security. But Lena had watched him bypass his own systems 100 times during training exercises. He was paranoid about digital records, so he'd built a manual override into every installation. She found the access panel behind a loose brick, entered the 6-digit code she'd memorized when she was 14, and heard the lock disengage with a soft click. She was inside. The interior was cold and utilitarian, concrete floors, fluorescent lights, the smell of disinfectant, and something darker underneath, fear, maybe, or despair, the kind that soaked into the walls and never left. Lena moved through the corridors with her weapon drawn, clearing each room with mechanical precision. Empty dormitory, empty classroom, empty medical bay. No children, no guards, no one. Her chest tightened. She checked the coordinates again, cross-referenced the building layout Damon had described. This was the right place. It had to be. But it felt wrong. Too quiet. Too clean. Too... The voice came from behind her, calm and familiar and terrible. "Hello, Lana." She spun, weapon raised, and froze. Silas Vane stood in the doorway, hands clasped behind his back, dressed in a simple gray suit. He was 60 years old, silver-haired, with the kind of face that looked gentle until you saw the eyes. Cold, calculating, empty of anything resembling compassion. "You're predictable," he said. "I knew you'd come here, knew you'd try to save them. You always were the sentimental one." Lena's finger tightened on the trigger. "Where are the children?" "Safe. Far from here. Far from you." Vane stepped into the room, moving with the casual confidence of someone who'd already won. "Did you really think I'd keep them in a place you knew about?" "I've been planning for this moment since the day you left, Lena. Every contingency, every possibility, including the one where you decided to play hero." "I'm not playing," Vane smiled. "No, you're not. That's what makes this so tragic. You actually believe you can stop me. You actually think walking away from the program means you're free." He paused. "But you're not free, Lena. You're just lost." Lena's hands were shaking now. "Where are the children?" "You're not going to shoot me," Vane said quietly, "because you need answers. You need to know if your mother was real, if she loved you, if any of it meant something beyond the mission. Don't. I trained her, before Black Talon, before she became a legend. She was just like you, talented, driven, convinced she could make a difference. And she did. For a while. Until she realized the cost." Lena's voice cracked. "Shut up." She died believing she was saving those children, but all she really did was delay the inevitable. Because the world needs people like us, Lena. People willing to do what others won't. People who understand that sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to become the monster. "You're insane." "I'm honest." Vane took another step closer. "You think you're different from me, from Kira, from the others. But you're not. You killed 6 people tonight, efficient, professional, without hesitation. That's not heroism, Lena. That's programming." "I had a choice," Lena said, voice shaking. "They didn't." "Did you? Or did you just follow a different set of orders?" Vane's eyes were cold. "Weller gave you coordinates, sent you here, used you as a weapon to solve his problem. How is that any different from what I did?" Lena's throat tightened. "Because I chose to help them." "No. You chose to run toward the only thing you know. Violence, control, the mission." Vane smiled. "You can't escape what you are, Lena, no matter how far you run. No matter who you save. You'll always be my weapon. And deep down, you know it." The room was silent except for the hum of the fluorescent lights. Lena's finger hovered on the trigger. And for a terrible, infinite moment, she wondered if he was right. Dum. Then she lowered the gun. Vane's eyebrows rose. "Giving up?" "No," Lena said quietly. "I'm choosing something you never taught me." "And what's that?" "Restraint." She pulled a pair of zip ties from her pocket and threw them at his feet. "You're coming with me. You're going to tell Weller where the children are. And then you're going to spend the rest of your life in a cell watching everything you built get torn apart piece by piece." Vane didn't move. "You think I'm going to let you take me into custody? I think you don't have a choice." "There's always a choice, Lena. I taught you that." He pulled a remote detonator from his pocket. Lena's blood went cold. "What did you do?" "Insurance," Vane said calmly. "This facility is wired with enough C4 to level everything within a quarter mile. You came here to save children who aren't here. Instead, you're going to die in an empty building because you were too stubborn to accept reality." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Vane's thumb hovered over the button. Lena raised her weapon again. "Put it down." "Shoot me and the dead man switch activates. We both die." "Then we both die." Vane studied her. "You've changed." "Yes." "You're willing to sacrifice yourself, if that's what it takes." For the first time since she'd known him, Vane looked uncertain. "Why?" "Because my mother did it, and I'm her daughter." The words hung in the air like a blade. Vane's expression shifted, just slightly, just enough, and Lena saw the opening. She fired. not at him, at the detonator. The round hit the device dead center, shattering it into pieces before Vane could react. He stared at his empty hand, then at her, eyes wide with shock. "You missed," he said. "I never miss," Lena replied. Then she closed the distance and hit him hard enough to knock him unconscious. She zip-tied his hands and feet, dragged him to the Jeep, and drove back toward Outpost Cipher 9 with the man who'd shaped her entire life bound and silent in the back seat. The sun was setting when she hit the main road. The sky was burning orange and gold. The world looked almost peaceful. But Lena didn't feel peace. She felt something harder, something colder. She felt free. Weller was waiting at the gate when she arrived. He stood in the snow with his hands in his coat pockets, watching the Jeep approach with an expression Lena couldn't quite read. She parked, climbed out, and opened the rear door. Vane was conscious now, staring at Weller with cold, unblinking eyes. "Adrian?" he said quietly. Weller didn't respond. He just looked at the man he'd once called a colleague, a partner, a friend, and saw nothing he recognized. "Get him to interrogation," Weller said to the guards. "Full security, no contact with anyone except authorized personnel." They dragged Vane out of the Jeep and hauled him toward the main building. As he passed Lena, he stopped and looked at her one last time. "This isn't over," he said. Lena met his gaze. "Yes, it is." Then the guards pulled him away, and he was gone. Weller and Lena stood alone in the motor pool while the sun disappeared behind the mountains and the temperature dropped toward freezing. "He told me you'd fail," Weller said quietly. "Said you were too broken to function outside the program, too damaged to ever be anything except a weapon." "Maybe he's right." "He's not." Weller turned to face her. "You had a dozen chances to kill him. You didn't. You brought him back alive because you knew we needed the intelligence. That's not programming, Lena. That's judgment." Lena looked down at her hands. They were shaking. "I wanted to kill him." "But you didn't." "Does that make me better than him? Or just weaker?" Weller was quiet for a long moment. Then, "It makes you human." Lena's throat tightened. She didn't trust herself to speak. "Vane gave us the coordinates," Weller continued. "Federal teams are moving on the secondary facility as we speak. 6 children, all alive, all coming home." Lena closed her eyes. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You're the one who made it possible." Weller paused. "We're setting up a task force, multi-agency, full authorization to dismantle what's left of Vane's network. It's going to take months, maybe years, but we're going to find every facility, every operator, every child he took. I want in. I know, and I'm not going to stop you." Weller pulled an envelope from his coat and handed it to her. "But first, you need to see this." Lena opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph, faded, creased, decades old. It showed a woman in military fatigue standing in front of a transport helicopter. She was smiling, young, alive. Lena's breath caught. "That's my mother." "That's Alara," Weller confirmed. "Taken 3 days before her last mission. She asked me to hold on to it. Said if anything happened to her, I should give it to someone who'd understand what it meant." Lena stared at the photograph, vision blurring. "What did it mean?" she whispered. "That she was more than the mission, more than the weapon, more than what they tried to turn her into." Weller's voice was soft. "She was completely someone, Lena. And so are you." Lena pressed the photograph to her chest and let herself cry for the first time since she was 6 years old. They debriefed her over the next 72 hours. Cross ran the tactical analysis. Logan documented the engagement sequences. Hale verified her account against physical evidence and captured operator testimony. Every detail, every decision, every shot fired. And when it was over, when every question had been answered and every report filed, Weller called her into his office. "Sit," he said. Lena sat. Weller leaned back in his chair and studied her. "You know you can't stay here." "I know. The moment word gets out about what you did, you'll have intelligence agencies from 6 countries trying to recruit you, or kill you. Maybe both. I know that too. Which is why I'm offering you a third option." Weller slid a folder across the desk. "Witness protection. New name, new life, full support. You disappear, and no one ever finds you." Lena opened the folder and stared at the documents inside. Social security number, birth certificate, high school transcript, an entire identity, carefully constructed, ready to be lived. She closed the folder and pushed it back. No, she said. Weller raised an eyebrow. No? I didn't leave Vane's program to hide in someone else's. I'm not running anymore. Then what do you want? Lena met his gaze. I want to finish what my mother started. I want to find the children Vane took. I want to dismantle every facility, every network, every piece of the machine he built. And I want to do it my way. No handler, no oversight, no one telling me I'm too young or too broken or too dangerous. Weller smiled. You realize what you're asking for is impossible. You keep using that word? Fair point. Weller pulled out another folder, thicker, heavier, marked with classifications Lena didn't recognize. This is everything we have on Vane's network. Facility locations, operator profiles, financial records. It's incomplete, but it's a start. Lena stared at the folder. You're giving this to me? I'm giving you a choice, Weller said. Walk away and live a quiet life. Or take this and accept that you'll never stop moving, never stop fighting, and probably never live to see 30. That's not a choice. No, Weller agreed. It's not, but it's the only one you've got. Lena reached across the desk and took the folder. Weller nodded slowly. There's one more thing. He pulled a small metal case from his drawer and set it on the desk. Inside, resting on black velvet, was a military commendation medal, older, worn, engraved with a name. Ilara Voss. She earned this 2 weeks before she died, Weller said quietly, for pulling those kids out of Chechnya. I was supposed to present it to her when she got back. She never did. He closed the case and pushed it toward Lena. It's yours now, not because you're her daughter, but because you earned it. Lena picked up the case and held it like it might shatter. Thank you, she whispered. Weller stood and extended his hand. Good hunting, Lena Voss. Lena shook it. Good hunting, General. She left at dawn. Logan walked her to the gate, rifle slung over his shoulder, expression unreadable. You know this is crazy, he said. I know. You know Vane's people are going to come after you. I'm counting on it. Logan shook his head. You're just like your mother, too stubborn to know when to quit. My mother saved 3 kids and died a hero, Lena said. I'd settle for half that. Logan was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled a card from his pocket and handed it to her. My personal number. You get in over your head, you call. No questions, no judgment. Lena tucked the card into her jacket. Why are you doing this? Because someone did it for me once, and I didn't appreciate it until it was too late. He paused. Don't make the same mistake. Lena nodded once. Then she walked through the gate and into the forest without looking back. Logan watched her disappear into the trees, and somewhere in the distance, the sun broke through the clouds and turned the snow into gold. 3 weeks later, a federal raid on a facility outside Billings, Montana, recovered 6 children, ages 4 through 9, alive and unharmed. The operation was clean, professional, textbook. And when the agents swept the building, they found a single piece of evidence left behind, a photograph of a woman in military fatigues, smiling in front of a helicopter with a handwritten note on the back. They're safe. Keep going. LV. The task force analyzed the note, cross-referenced the handwriting, and added it to the growing file on the ghost operative who'd vanished into the wilderness and was systematically dismantling Silas Vane's empire from the shadows. They called her Asset Indigo. They called her the Wraith. They called her a dozen different things, but the children she saved called her something else. They called her Hope. And in a world built on violence and control and the belief that some people were born to be weapons, that was the most dangerous thing she could possibly be. The children arrived at Outpost Cipher 9 on a gray Thursday morning, wrapped in thermal blankets in confusion. Lena watched from the tree line, 50 yards beyond the fence, hidden in the shadows where she'd spent most of the past 3 weeks. She'd been there when the convoy pulled in, watched the medics hustle the kids inside, counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all breathing, all walking, all alive. She'd done that. Not the federal agents who'd stormed the facility, not the tactical teams who'd secured the perimeter. Her. She'd given them the coordinates, the security codes, the guard rotation schedules. She'd handed them everything they needed on a silver platter and then disappeared before anyone could ask questions she wasn't ready to answer. Now she stood in the cold and watched social workers guide the children toward warm rooms and hot food and the long, impossible process of learning how to be human again. One of them, a girl, maybe 7, with dark hair and eyes too old for her face, stopped at the entrance and looked back toward the forest. Lena held her breath. The girl stared directly at her hiding spot, and for a terrible moment Lena thought she'd been made. But the girl didn't call out, didn't point. She just raised one small hand in a gesture that might have been a wave, or might have been something else entirely. Then she turned and walked inside. Lena exhaled slowly and melted back into the trees. Bob. She was 2 miles out when Logan caught up with her. He appeared from behind a cluster of pines, rifle slung across his back, moving with the easy confidence of someone who'd spent half his life tracking people through hostile terrain. "You're getting sloppy," he said. Lena didn't stop walking. "I let you follow me." "Sure you did." "I did. You've been on my trail since the main road, 300-yard offset, using the ridgeline for cover. If I wanted to lose you, I would have." Logan grunted. "Fair point." He fell into step beside her. "You planning on coming back inside, or are you just going to keep watching from the woods like some kind of vigilante forest spirit?" "I'm not coming back." "Yeah, I figured." Logan pulled a folder from his jacket and held it out. "Weller asked me to give you this." Lena stopped. "What is it?" "Intel on the California facility. Best we've got. 2 operators confirmed on site, maybe more. No children yet, but Vane's financial records show he was planning to move assets there within the month." Lena took the folder and opened it. Satellite photos, floor plans, guard schedules, everything she needed. "He's helping me," she said quietly. "He's helping the kids. You're just the weapon he's using to reach them." Logan paused. "His words, not mine." Lena closed the folder. "Tell him thank you." "Tell him yourself. He's waiting at the old logging road junction, 2 miles west." Lena looked at him. "You set this up." "Weller set it up. I'm just the messenger." Logan shifted his weight. "He wants to talk before you disappear for another 3 weeks." "I'm not—" "Lena." Logan's voice was quiet. "You saved 6 kids. You dismantled a facility we didn't even know existed. You're doing good work, but you're doing it alone, and that's going to get you killed." "I work better alone." "Bullshit. You work alone because Vane trained you to believe you couldn't trust anyone." Logan stepped closer. "But you trusted Weller. You trusted me. You even trusted Damon, and he was actively trying to kill you 12 hours before you saved his life." Lena's jaw tightened. "What's your point?" "My point is, you're not a weapon anymore. You're a person, and people need other people, whether they like it or not." "I don't—" 2 miles west," Logan interrupted. "He'll wait for an hour. After that, you're on your own." He turned and walked back toward the base, and Lena stood alone in the forest with the folder in her hands and a decision she didn't want to make. Weller was leaning against a black SUV when she arrived, arms crossed, breath misting in the cold air. He didn't smile when he saw her, didn't speak, just watched her approach with the patient, calculating focus of a man who'd spent 40 years reading people and knew exactly what he was looking at. Lena stopped 10 feet away. "Logan said you wanted to talk." "I wanted to make you an offer. I already turned down witness protection." "This is different." Weller pushed off the SUV and faced her fully. "You've hit 3 facilities in 3 weeks, saved 14 children, neutralized 9 operators. You're good at this, Lena, better than anyone I've ever worked with. But you're operating without support, without backup, without anyone watching your 6. Sooner or later, that's going to catch up with you." "I can handle it." "I know you can. That's not the issue." Weller pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. "This is—" The screen showed a surveillance photo, grainy, long range, taken from a rooftop somewhere urban. It showed Lena walking through a parking lot, face partially obscured, but unmistakably her. "Sacramento," Weller said. 4 days ago. You stopped for supplies. Stayed visible for 8 minutes. That's all it took for someone to get this photo and sell it to the highest bidder." Lena's blood went cold. "Who bought it?" "We don't know yet, but the seller's connected to Eastern European intelligence networks, which means you're not just being hunted by Vane's people anymore. You're on the international market." "Then I'll go deeper. Stay off grid." And how long do you think you can sustain that? 6 months? A year? Weller's voice was hard. You're 18 years old, Lena. You've got no legal identity, no financial resources, no support structure. You're running on adrenaline and spite, and eventually both of those run out. Lena looked away. What's your offer? Work with us. Officially. Not as an operator or an asset, as a consultant. You keep doing what you're doing, finding the kids, dismantling the network, but you do it with resources, intelligence, backup when you need it, and legal protection when the wrong people come looking. In exchange for what? Accountability. You report in. You share intel. You don't go off grid for weeks at a time and leave us wondering if you're alive or dead. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then, I can't be in a cage again. I'm not offering you a cage. I'm offering you a partner. I don't need a partner. You needed one when you walked into my base and asked for a rifle. You needed one when you went into that vault and saved Damon. You needed one when you drove 200 miles into hostile territory and brought Vane back alive. Weller's voice softened. Your mother worked alone for years. It made her effective. It also made her isolated, paranoid, and ultimately it got her killed. I don't want that for you. Lena's throat tightened. She chose to stay behind. You said so yourself. She did, because she didn't have backup, didn't have extraction, didn't have anyone telling her there was another way. Weller stepped closer. You have me. You have Logan. You have Cross and Hale and every resource this installation can provide. Use them. Don't die alone in a forest somewhere because you were too proud to ask for help. Lena looked down at the folder in her hands. What happens to Vane? He's in federal custody, maximum security, no contact with the outside. He'll spend the rest of his life in a cell. And the children? Foster care, therapy, long-term support. We've got psychologists, social workers, people who specialize in deprogramming and reintegration. It's going to take time, but they'll get there. Will they? Lena's voice was barely above a whisper. Or will they just become different kinds of broken? Weller was quiet, then, I don't know, but they'll have a chance. That's more than they had 3 weeks ago. Lena closed her eyes. I need to think about it. Take your time, but not too much. Weller pulled a satellite phone from his pocket and held it out. Encrypted, untraceable. My direct line is programmed in. You need anything, intel, extraction, just someone to talk to. You call. Lena took the phone. And if I don't call? Then I'll assume you made your choice, and I'll respect it. Weller extended his hand. But I hope you don't. Lena shook his hand, and for the first time since she'd walked out of Vane's compound, she felt something that wasn't fear or anger or the cold mechanical focus that had kept her alive. She felt hope. She drove south for 2 days, following the coordinates in Weller's folder toward the California facility. The landscape shifted from mountains to high desert. Snow gave way to scrub brush and endless sky. The silence was total, except for the hum of the engine and the occasional crackle of the satellite phone on the passenger seat. She didn't call. Not because she didn't want to, but because she needed to prove to herself that she could still do this alone. The facility sat 20 miles outside Redding, disguised as a private wilderness retreat. High fences, security gates, cameras everywhere. Vane's fingerprints were all over it. Lena spent 2 days mapping the perimeter, timing the patrols, identifying the weak points. Then, on the third night, she moved. The breach was clean. She cut through the fence at 0230 hours, bypassed the motion sensors, and entered through a service entrance on the east side. 2 guards inside, both neutralized within 30 seconds. No alarms, no complications. She moved through the corridors, clearing rooms, searching for children. Empty. Every room, every cell, every dormitory. Empty. Lena's chest tightened. She checked the coordinates again. This was the right place. The intel was solid, but there was no one here. She was about to pull back when she heard it, a faint sound from the sub-level. Footsteps. Multiple people moving in formation. She descended the stairs, weapon raised. The basement was a single large room lit by harsh fluorescent lights, and standing in the center, surrounded by 6 armed operators, was Damon. He looked up when she entered, and his expression was equal parts relief and resignation. Lena, he said quietly. One of the operators, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward. Indigo 7, we've been waiting for you. Lena kept her weapon trained on him. Where are the children? There are no children. There never were. This was a trap. Lena's blood went cold. Vane's in custody. Vane's in custody, the operator agreed. But his network isn't. We've been tracking you since Billings. Every move, every facility you hit. We knew you'd come here. Why? The operator smiled. Because you're valuable. And Vane taught us to always secure valuable assets. Lena's finger tightened on the trigger. I'm not going back. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. She fired, not at the operator, but at the lights overhead. The room plunged into darkness. Chaos erupted. Muzzle flashes lit the space in strobing bursts. Operators shouted, trying to reorient, trying to find her in the blackness. But Lena had trained in the dark since she was 7 years old. She moved like smoke, fast and silent, using the confusion to close the distance. She dropped 2 operators before they realized she wasn't where they'd last seen her, grabbed a third, used him as a shield, and put 3 rounds into the 4th. The 5th operator got smart and pulled a flashlight. The beam swept across the room and found Damon, standing in the center with a weapon he'd pulled off one of the downed operators. He aimed it at the flashlight and fired twice. The light went out. The 5th operator went down. Silence. Lena and Damon stood in the darkness, breathing hard, surrounded by bodies. You came back, Damon said quietly. I didn't come back for you. I came for the kids. There are no kids, Lena. This was always about you. Lena's hands were shaking. Then why are you here? Because they made me choose. Help them capture you or die. Damon's voice cracked. I chose option 3, which is help you escape and hope you don't kill me for it. Lena lowered her weapon. We need to leave. Now. Agreed. They moved toward the stairs, and the 6th operator stepped out of the shadows, rifle raised, finger on the trigger. Don't, he said. Lena and Damon froze. The operator kept his weapon trained on them, but his hands were shaking. I don't want to do this. Then don't, Lena said. They'll kill me if I let you go. They'll kill you anyway. That's what Vane does. He uses people until they're no longer useful, then he discards them. The operator's jaw tightened. You don't know that. I know because I was you. I followed orders. I believed the mission mattered. And then I realized the only mission that ever mattered was his control. I can't just... You can, Lena interrupted. You can choose to walk away, right now, tonight. You can choose to be something other than what he made you. The operator stared at her, and for a long moment the only sound was the hum of emergency lighting kicking in. Then he lowered his rifle. Go, he said quietly. Lena nodded once. Then she and Damon ran. They made it to the Jeep and drove until the facility was a distant memory and the sun was breaking over the eastern mountains. Damon sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, silent. Finally, he said, What happens now? Now you decide what you want to be. I don't know how. Neither did I, but you figure it out. Lena glanced at him. Weller's offering protection, new identity, support. You want it? I'll put you in touch. Damon was quiet. Then, what about you? I've got work to do. Alone? Lena didn't answer. She dropped Damon at a safe house Weller had set up in Oregon, then drove north through forests that seemed to stretch forever. Somewhere along the way, she pulled over and sat in the Jeep with the engine running and the satellite phone in her hand. She stared at it for a long time. Then she dialed. Weller answered on the first ring. Lena? The California facility was a trap. No kids. Just operators waiting for me. Are you hurt? No, but they knew I was coming. Someone's feeding them intel. We'll find the leak. What do you need? Lena was quiet. Then, I need backup. I need resources. And I need to know I'm not doing this alone. There was a pause. Then Weller's voice came back, warm and steady. You're not alone, Lena. You never were. I know. She took a breath. I'm accepting your offer. I'll work with you, but on my terms. Name them. I don't report to bureaucrats. I don't follow protocols that get kids killed. And if I think the mission's compromised, I pull out. No arguments. Agreed. Anything else? Lena looked down at the photograph of her mother, still tucked in her jacket. Yeah, one more thing. What? I want access to everything you have on Alara Voss. Mission reports, psych evals, personal files, all of it. Weller was quiet for a moment. Why? Because I need to know who she was. Not the legend, not the operative, the person. You sure you want that? Sometimes the truth is harder than the myth. I'm sure. All right. I'll have it ready when you get back. Lena closed her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've still got 14 facilities to hit and about 50 kids to find. You ready for that? Lena started the engine. I was born ready. Weller laughed, short, surprised, genuine. Yeah, you were, Sam. She returned to Outpost Cipher 9 on a cold March morning, and this time she walked through the gate instead of watching from the trees. Logan was waiting in the operations center with Cross and Hale and a tactical map covered in red pins marking known vein facilities. Welcome back, Logan said. Lena set her gear down. What do we have? Cross pulled up a file on the main screen. Wyoming facility, confirmed activity. Intel suggests 4 children on site, ages 5 to 11. Security's heavy, but we've got a window. When? 72 hours. Lena studied the map. I'll need a team. 3 operators, CQB specialists, people who can move fast and quiet. Logan grinned. I know a guy. You're not coming. The hell I'm not. Lena looked at him. This isn't your fight. It is now. Logan's expression was serious. You saved my life when you walked into that storm and proved you were real. Let me return the favor. Lena wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she worked alone, that she didn't need help, that this was her mission. But she was tired of lying. All right, she said, but you follow my lead, my rules. Your show, Lena. I'm just here to watch your 6. Gotcha. They hit the Wyoming facility at dawn. 4 operators, Lena, Logan, and 2 CQB specialists Cross had pulled from a joint task force. They breached through the western perimeter, neutralized 3 guards, and cleared 6 rooms in under 4 minutes. And in the basement, locked in cells that smelled like fear and disinfectant, they found the children. 4 of them. Scared. Thin. Alive. Lena knelt in front of the oldest, a boy, maybe 11, with eyes that had seen too much. We're getting you out of here, she said quietly. The boy stared at her. Are you real? Lena's throat tightened. Yeah, I'm real. They said no one was coming. They said we'd be here forever. They lied. Lena extended her hand. Come on, let's go home. The boy took her hand and Lena led them out of the darkness and into the light. By the end of May, they'd hit 8 more facilities. 37 children recovered. 23 operators neutralized. Vane's network collapsing piece by piece, Lena stood in the operations center, staring at the map, watching the red pins disappear one by one. Weller appeared beside her. We got confirmation from the task force. The last known facility just went dark. No activity, no signals. They're pulling out. Or going deeper. Maybe, but we'll find them. Lena nodded slowly. What happens to the kids? Same as the others, foster care, therapy, long-term support. Some of them will struggle, some of them will thrive, but they'll all have a chance. Because of what we did. Because of what you did, Weller corrected. You started this, Lena. You walked out of that storm and decided to fight back. Everything that followed came from that choice. Lena looked down at her hands. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does, but it's something. Weller paused. Your mother used to say that. After every mission, every rescue, she'd say it wasn't enough, and I'd tell her the same thing I'm telling you now. You can't save everyone. But the ones you do save, they matter. Lena was quiet. Then, can I see the files now? The ones about my mother? Weller nodded and gestured toward his office. They're waiting. The files were thick. Decades of mission reports, psychological evaluations, personal notes. Lena read through them slowly, carefully, searching for traces of the woman behind the legend. She found her in the margins. Notes scribbled during debriefs, observations about the people she'd saved, a letter written to Weller 3 days before her last mission, asking him to watch over the children if she didn't make it back. And at the bottom of the stack, a single photograph. It showed Alara holding a baby, small, wrapped in a hospital blanket, eyes barely open. On the back, in Alara's handwriting, Lena, 3 days old, my reason for everything. Lena stared at the photograph until the words blurred. Then she set it down, closed the file, and walked out of the office. She found Logan on the roof watching the sunset. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," Lena said. "I'm good." "You sure? You've got that look." "What look?" "The one people get when they're about to do something stupid." Lena smiled, small, but real. "I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm just thinking." "About?" "About what comes next." Logan was quiet. Then, "You know you can stay, right? Weller would make it official, give you a position, a salary, hell, probably a medal if you asked." "I don't need a medal." "What do you need?" Lena thought about it. "I need to keep moving, keep finding the kids, keep fighting." She paused. "But I don't need to do it alone anymore." Logan nodded. "Good, because you're stuck with us now." They stood in silence, watching the sun disappear behind the mountains. And for the first time since she was 6 years old, Lena Voss felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Pichet. 3 months later, Lena stood in a small courtroom in Oregon and watched a judge grant legal guardianship of the oldest Wyoming survivor, the 11-year-old boy who'd asked if she was real, to a foster family who'd spent 6 weeks proving they were ready. The boy looked back at her from the front row, eyes wide. Lena gave him a small nod. He nodded back. And that was enough. Well, Silas Vane spent the rest of his days in a maximum security facility in Colorado, isolated from the network he'd built and the children he'd stolen. He never spoke, never cooperated, never showed remorse. But sometimes, late at night, the guards said they could hear him talking to himself in his cell. Always the same words. "She was mine. She was always mine." He was wrong. Lena Voss belonged to no one but herself. Dimmed. Years later, when the last of Vane's facilities had been dismantled and the last of the children had been found, Lena stood at her mother's grave in a small cemetery in Virginia. The headstone was simple, just a name and 2 dates. Alara Voss, 1975 to 2006. Lena knelt and set down a single white flower. "I finished it," she said quietly. "All of them. Every kid, every facility. It's done." The wind moved through the trees. "Weller said you asked him once if we were doing the right thing, training people to be weapons, sending them into the dark." Lena's voice was steady. "I don't know if it was right, but I know what you did with it, and I know I'm doing the same thing now." She stood, brushed the dirt from her knees. "I'm not you. I'll never be you. But I'm her daughter, and that's enough." She turned and walked back toward the Jeep where Logan was waiting. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," Lena said. "I'm good." They drove away as the sun set behind them, painting the sky in shades of gold and fire. And somewhere in the distance, a child who'd been saved and a mother who'd died saving others watched the same sunset and knew that the war was finally over. Not because the fight had ended, but because the ones who'd been broken had learned to remake themselves into something stronger. Lena Voss walked out of a blizzard with nothing but scars and a name she'd been told didn't matter. She left it carved into the world, in the children she saved, the network she destroyed, and the choice she made to be human when everyone told her she was just a weapon. They trained her to become a tool. She chose to become an answer, and in the end, that choice made all the difference. Sometimes the only way to stop being a weapon is to choose what you fight for. And the bravest thing you can do is decide that broken doesn't mean finished. It just means you're still becoming who you were always meant to be.